The dust swirled, a gritty haze under the merciless sun. The air was thick with the scent of ancient earth, a smell that seemed to carry the weight of millennia. The relentless sun beat down, casting long shadows that danced across the undulating dunes. Professor Evelyn Wright brushed aside the layer of sediment, revealing a fragment of bone. Her hands moved with practiced precision, each stroke of the brush uncovering a piece of history long buried. She could feel the anticipation building, a sense of discovery that never grew old. Another piece of the puzzle, she thought, meticulously logging its location. Each artifact was a clue, a fragment of a story waiting to be told. She knew that every detail mattered, that the placement of each find could unlock secrets of the past. The Kenyan dig site was proving to be a treasure trove, artifacts whispering tales of a civilization lost to time. Pottery shards, tools, and remnants of structures hinted at a complex society that had once thrived in this harsh landscape. But nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to unearth. The team had been working tirelessly, driven by the promise of discovery, but the magnitude of what they found next was beyond their wildest dreams. The skeletal remains lay undisturbed, half buried in the earth. The bones were arranged in a way that suggested a deliberate burial, a practice that spoke of ritual and reverence. It was a sight that filled Evelyn with awe and curiosity. Even in its incomplete state, the skeleton hinted at a being both familiar and alien. The proportions were human-like, but there were subtle differences that set it apart. It was as if they had stumbled upon a missing link, a bridge between the known and the unknown. The skull, with its pronounced brow ridges and elongated cranium, sent a shiver down Evelyn's spine. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. A relic from a time that defied conventional understanding. The implications were staggering. This was no ordinary find. This was something extraordinary. The team gathered around, their faces a mix of excitement and disbelief. They knew they were on the brink of a groundbreaking discovery, one that could change the course of history. Initial analysis suggested the remains were astonishingly old. The carbon dating results were unlike anything they had encountered before, pointing to an age that predated known human history by a significant margin. Far older than anything they'd encountered before. The artifacts found alongside the skeleton were equally perplexing, their craftsmanship and materials suggesting a level of sophistication that was hard to reconcile with their age. The dating came back with an almost unbelievable result. 500,000 years. It was a figure that seemed impossible, one that challenged the very foundations of their understanding of human evolution. It was an impossible figure, one that challenged everything they thought they knew about human history. The team was left grappling with the implications, their minds racing with questions and theories, and yet there it was, staring back at them in stark black and white. The evidence was undeniable. A silent testament to a past that was far more complex and mysterious than they had ever imagined. Evelyn knew this discovery had the potential to rewrite history. It was a moment of profound realization, a recognition that they were standing on the precipice of a new understanding of the human story. But she couldn't shake the feeling that it was only the beginning. There was a sense of foreboding, a nagging suspicion that this discovery would lead to more questions than answers. The first tremor of an earthquake that threatened to shatter the very foundations of their understanding. It was a discovery that promised to shake the world of archaeology to its core, challenging long-held beliefs and opening the door to new possibilities. News of the discovery spread like wildfire, igniting the scientific community. The headlines were ablaze with the astonishing find, and the excitement was palpable. This was not just another archaeological dig. It was a potential game-changer in our understanding of human history. Experts from around the globe descended upon the Kenyan site, eager to witness firsthand the remains that defied conventional wisdom. The site quickly became a melting pot of cultures and expertise, with scientists from various disciplines collaborating in a race against time to uncover the secrets buried in the ancient soil. The age of the skeleton was staggering, pushing the boundaries of known human evolution. It was a discovery that challenged everything we thought we knew about our ancestors. The meticulous process of unearthing the bones was a testament to the dedication and precision of the archaeologists involved. Professor James Hoffman, a renowned geneticist, joined the team, drawn by the sheer improbability of the find. His expertise in ancient DNA was unparalleled, and his presence added a new layer of excitement and anticipation to the project. Hoffman had a reputation for pushing the boundaries of what was possible, and this discovery was no exception. He proposed an audacious, some might say reckless, experiment to extract and sequence the DNA from the ancient bones. The scientific community was divided. Some hailed it as a bold step forward, while others warned of the potential pitfalls. But Hoffman was undeterred, driven by a relentless curiosity and a desire to unlock the secrets of our past. It was a long shot, given the age and condition of the remains, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. The bones were fragile, degraded by the passage of time, yet they held within them the promise of untold knowledge. The team worked with painstaking care, knowing that a single mistake could destroy invaluable information. The results, when they came back, were nothing short of astonishing. The data revealed a genetic sequence that was both ancient and remarkably well preserved. The excitement in the lab was electric as the team realized they were on the brink of a groundbreaking discovery. The DNA was remarkably well preserved, a testament to the dry, stable conditions of the burial site. The arid climate had acted as a natural preservative, allowing the genetic material to survive for hundreds of thousands of years. It was a rare and precious find, offering a unique window into the distant past. But it was the analysis that sent shockwaves through the team. The DNA sequence was unlike anything they had ever seen, bearing only a passing resemblance to modern humans. It was a puzzle that defied easy explanation, raising more questions than it answered. The DNA sequence was unlike anything they had ever seen, bearing only a passing resemblance to modern humans. The genetic markers were distinct, hinting at a lineage that had diverged from our own far earlier than previously thought. It was a discovery that had the potential to rewrite the history of human evolution, and yet there was something strangely familiar about it. The patterns in the DNA held a haunting echo of recognition, as if they were looking at a distant relative long forgotten. It was a tantalizing hint that there was more to this story than met the eye. A faint echo, a whisper of recognition that sent a chill down Professor Hoffman's spine. He had spent his career studying ancient DNA, but this was different. There was an eerie familiarity to the sequence that he couldn't quite place, a sense that he was on the verge of uncovering something profound. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had seen this sequence before, but the answer remained tantalizingly out of reach. It was a mystery that gnawed at him, driving him to dig deeper, to search through old notes and previous research in the hope of finding a clue. The journey was just beginning, and the answers lay hidden in the depths of the ancient past. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Professor Hoffman delved deeper into the enigmatic DNA sequence. He spent countless hours in the lab, comparing it to databases of human genomes from around the world. The odds of finding a match were astronomically small, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this discovery than met the eye. Then one evening, as he was running a final comparison, the computer beeped, signaling a match. Professor Hoffman's heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be. Could it? He double-checked the results, his hand trembling slightly. There was no mistake. The ancient DNA had a living match. The match belonged to a man named John Smith, an unremarkable individual living a quiet life in a small town in the American Midwest. Professor Hoffman couldn't believe his eyes. How could this be possible? How could a man living in the 21st century share DNA with a skeleton that was 500,000 years old? It defied all logic, all scientific understanding. The impossible had become reality, and Professor Hoffman knew that this was only the beginning of a mystery that would challenge everything they thought they knew about human origins. John Smith lived a simple life. He was a man of routine, finding solace in the predictability of his daily activities. Every morning, he would wake up at the same time, brew a cup of coffee, and sit by the window watching the world go by. His life was unremarkable, yet it was the only life he knew. He worked as a librarian, surrounded by the comforting silence of books. The library was his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself in the pages of history, fiction, and science. He found joy in the smell of old books and the quiet rustle of pages turning. It was a world where he felt safe, a world that made sense to him. He had no family, no close friends, just the quiet routine of his days. His evenings were spent in solitude, reading or taking long walks through the empty streets of his neighborhood. The loneliness was a constant companion, but it was a companion he had grown accustomed to. It was as if he was living in a bubble, isolated from the rest of the world. He had always felt a sense of displacement, a feeling that he didn't quite belong. There was an inexplicable void within him, a nagging sense that something was missing. He would often find himself staring out of the window, lost in thought, wondering about the life he could not remember. The reflection in the mirror seemed like a stranger, a man out of time. He had no memories of his childhood, no photographs, no mementos of his past. The few possessions he had were devoid of any personal history. The empty photo frames on his shelf were a stark reminder of the life he could not recall. It was as if his existence had begun in adulthood with no past to anchor him. It was as if his life had begun in adulthood with no past to speak of. The absence of a childhood, of memories, left him feeling incomplete. He often wondered if there was something wrong with him, if he was somehow different from everyone else. The confusion and uncertainty were a constant undercurrent in his life. When Professor Hoffman and his team arrived at his doorstep, John was initially wary. He was not used to visitors, especially not a group of scientists. Their presence disrupted the quiet monotony of his life, and he was unsure of what to make of it. The professor's earnest expression and the team's serious demeanor only added to his apprehension. They explained the reason for their visit: the impossible DNA match, the ancient skeleton. The words sounded surreal, like something out of one of the books he read. An ancient skeleton with his DNA? It was a concept that defied logic, yet the evidence they presented was compelling. The documents, the photographs, the scientific jargon, it was overwhelming. John listened patiently, his expression unreadable. Inside, however, a storm was brewing. The revelation stirred something deep within him, a flicker of recognition that he could not explain. He had always felt different, set apart from others. Could this be the reason why? The possibility was both intriguing and terrifying. He had always felt different, set apart from others. The sense of isolation, the feeling of being out of place. It all seemed to make sense now. The idea that he could be connected to an ancient past was both a revelation and a burden. It explained so much, yet it raised even more questions. Could this be the reason why? The question echoed in his mind, a question that demanded answers. The more he thought about it, the more he felt compelled to find out the truth. The sense of kinship he felt with the ancient skeleton was undeniable, and it was a connection he could not ignore. John agreed to accompany the team back to Kenya, drawn by a strange pull he couldn't explain. The journey was long and filled with anticipation. As the plane soared through the skies, he gazed out of the window, lost in thought. The landscape below seemed to blur into a tapestry of memories he could not access, a past that was just out of reach. As he stood before the skeletal remains, a sense of unease washed over him. The sight of the ancient bones, so eerily familiar, sent a shiver down his spine. It was as if he was looking at a part of himself, a fragment of his own history. The connection he felt was palpable, a bond that transcended time and space. He felt a connection to this ancient being, a sense of kinship that transcended time. The realization was profound, shaking the very foundation of his understanding of himself. It was as if the pieces of a long-lost puzzle were finally falling into place, revealing a picture he had never imagined. The feeling was both exhilarating and terrifying. The enormity of the discovery, the implications of what it meant, left him reeling. He was standing on the precipice of a new reality, one that challenged everything he thought he knew about himself. The emotions swirling within him were a tumultuous mix of awe, fear, and curiosity. He reached out a hand, his fingers hovering just above the skull's smooth surface. The urge to touch it, to make a tangible connection, was overwhelming. As his hand drew closer, he felt a strange energy emanating from the ancient bones, a force that seemed to bridge the gap between past and present. A jolt of energy surged through him, and for a fleeting moment he saw a flash of crimson sky, felt the heat of a dying sun on his skin. The vision was vivid, almost real, as if he had been transported to another time and place. The sensations were overwhelming, filling him with a sense of urgency and purpose. The vision vanished as quickly as it had come, leaving him shaken and disoriented. The experience had been brief, but it had left a lasting impression. He sat down, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The connection to the ancient skeleton, the vision of the crimson sky, it all pointed to a truth that was beyond his comprehension. Yet deep down he knew that his journey was just beginning.